A honeymoon trip, often referred to as a wedding getaway, is surely one of the most memorable chapters in a young couple's journey together. It can etch lasting, beautiful recollections of an epic escapade or provide a welcome break from the routine grind of daily existence, maybe lounging along turquoise shores under swaying palm fronds.
But imagine if that dream honeymoon spirals into a horror story because you either commit a grave offense or find yourself wrongly blamed for one? Would it still feel blissful and lighthearted? Absolutely not.
It would stick in your mind forever, though for all the wrong reasons. Isabella Rodriguez, who later became known as Hellman, entered the world in 1975 in Colombia, a nation where Spanish reigns as the sole official tongue.
Isabella genuinely chased the promise of the American dream.
She purchased English language books, tuned into radio tunes, and did everything possible to master the language fast, determined to make her mark on the northern land. Though she did pick up English quite well, that distinctive southern lilt in her speech never quite faded. Still, it didn't hold her back from settling in Florida, securing a position as a real estate agent, and guiding Spanish-speaking folks through rentals or home purchases. In February 2002, fortune wasn't entirely kind, but Isabella wed William Hellman. Even though their marriage lasted a decade, it was riddled with non-stop disputes and household turmoil. In the end, their tolerance wore thin, leading them to pursue a divorce. The proceedings stretched out over a grueling 2 years. Amid that drawn-out separation, Isabella crossed paths with a new partner whom she felt could deliver genuine joy. His name was Louis Bennett, hailing from Great Britain. As a boy, Louis's family had moved to Australia, earning him dual citizenship and the option to head back to his birthplace for studies at the renowned Camborne School of Mines.
Yet Louis never pursued a career in that discipline.
Whether that turned out lucky or not remains debatable, but not long after finishing in the UK, he returned to Australia and started his own solar panel production venture.
Impressively, the enterprise flourished, and in just 4 years he pushed into the US market. With headquarters set up in Florida, the driven Louis began hunting for a spouse through online channels. These days, connecting with someone digitally feels straightforward, sometimes even simpler than face-to-face encounters. Still, Louis faced prolonged difficulty. He browsed profiles casually, rarely engaging deeply. Women who initiated contact either intimidated him or failed to capture his attention. But the moment he spotted Isabella's picture, she evoked strong memories of Jennifer Lopez, prompting him to make the first move. It's notable that their messaging became frequent and extended over considerable time. Isabella opened up about her lifelong aspiration to leave Colombia for America, the years spent studying English, her job hunt, and eventually even shared details of her prior romantic history. Louis wasn't deterred by any of it, particularly since her divorce from William was nearing completion. As for Isabella, she appeared worn out from previous partnerships and the emotionally taxing separation process. She took the initiative, proposing they meet face-to-face, and started journeying to join him wherever he was: England, Australia, or even Thailand. To wow his new love interest, Louis purchased a catamaran, envisioning Caribbean voyages with Isabella aboard. This had been a boyhood fantasy of his. Constant relocations made forming quick friendships tough, so he often passed leisure hours immersed in adventure tales by writers such as Jules Verne and Robert Louis Stevenson. Bennett confessed that Treasure Island ranked as his top favorite, a detail that would prove eerily relevant down the line. Isabella devoted every spare moment, vacations, extended weekends, to traveling alongside Louis. She observed that on these extravagant outings, Bennett appeared to largely disregard his business responsibilities. Perhaps this stemmed from how efficiently his company ran on autopilot, freeing him to savor life more fully. Nevertheless, Isabella began to worry. She attempted to broach the subject once, but he either deflected with humor or earnestly insisted he had come into substantial wealth through inheritance, leaving no financial worries. Reassured by this, Isabella dropped the matter. Then, in July 2016, the pair celebrated a delightful milestone: the arrival of their daughter, their first child together, named Amelia. For both Louis and Isabella, she represented their very first baby. Yet shortly afterward, the new parents started clashing heavily, conflicts that struck Isabella particularly hard given her troubled history. They couldn't see eye to eye on parenting approaches or even the country where Amelia should be raised. Lewis firmly advocated for Australia, close to his own parents, while Isabella insisted on remaining in the United States. Ultimately, Lewis gave in, and in 2017 the family settled in Florida. Despite already sharing a child, they chose this moment to officially marry. Isabella urged her husband to plan a honeymoon, longing for the ocean journey to revive the relaxed, joyful connection they once enjoyed while island hopping on his catamaran. Lewis heeded her request, assuring her the trip would happen soon, and he followed through. In late April 2017, following a return from Australia, the couple embarked on their romantic sailing adventure. Initially, based on their social media updates, everything aligned perfectly with Isabella's hopes. Every image captured them beaming, holding each other close, and discovering Caribbean gems together. But after that barrage of idyllic honeymoon pictures, an extended quiet period ensued, stretching 2 full weeks. When Isabella resurfaced online, she informed her relatives that she and Lewis were now in Cuba, intending to head back to Florida, though the return method remained undecided. She noted the weak connectivity there, cautioning that they might be out of touch for several days. Then, during the night of May 15, the Coast Guard picked up an emergency signal from Lewis. He reported being solitary on a raft adrift in the vast ocean. Rescue operations swung into action right away to locate him. Lewis was discovered near the Bahamas, truly by himself on a life raft loaded with all sorts of provisions and personal items. Back on land, he recounted his version of events. On May 14, after a tiring day, he asked Isabella to handle the catamaran while he caught some sleep below deck. Later, a powerful bang from beneath jolted him awake, and he shouted for his wife, getting no reply. Climbing topside to check, he found Isabella missing entirely from the vessel. That jarring collision, he claimed, had punched a hole in the hull, letting water rush in and the boat start to go under. Lewis figured his wife had been knocked overboard by the impact. Believing her life vest would keep her afloat, he assumed she was secure. Rather than sink along with the craft, particularly with their child on board, he collected his things and transferred to an inflatable rescue raft nearby. When officials examined Lewis's life raft, they were taken aback by what he had packed. It consisted mainly of his own belongings, as though he held no expectation that Isabella would survive or be recovered. Among the items was even a tea set. They also uncovered aluminum containers stashed with concealed silver coins inside his backpack. This discovery was set aside at first, as the immediate focus remained on the ongoing hunt for Isabella. The Coast Guard mobilized all possible assets, including choppers, to scour the region, but their work turned up nothing. They did manage to find the catamaran that Lewis said had struck submerged rocks. Yet divers' inspections revealed contradictions once more. No underwater rocks or reefs existed at the location where the boat was located, ruling out any collision. The breaches in the hull had clearly been created from the interior, not by outside force. Another shocking revelation: every escape hatch on the catamaran stood fully open, something that would accelerate sinking dramatically. Still, Lewis's narrative described him abandoning ship conventionally over the side. Escape hatches are designed to stay sealed except in absolute emergencies for evacuation. Despite his sailing experience, Lewis failed to trigger an emergency beacon or place a satellite call, equipment that could have guided rescuers swiftly in a crisis. From appearances, it looked as if Lewis had purposely scuttled the catamaran and fabricated the whole scenario as a mishap. But then, what had become of his wife? By May 17, the search for Isabella pressed on, though more than 120 hours had elapsed since the catamaran foundered. With survival odds in open water plummeting sharply after roughly 13 hours, optimism dwindled. On May 18, the effort was formally suspended. Isabella has never been located. In the meantime, Lewis made his way home on May 15, displaying little apparent distress over Isabella's vanishing. Adding to the doubts, he arranged only one ticket to Australia for May 19. It appeared Lewis never genuinely anticipated that rescuers would recover his wife, whether alive or deceased. Nevertheless, he pressed aggressively for a swift death certificate to secure the insurance benefits available to him as next of kin. The insurer turned down his request. Following that denial, Lewis approached Isabella's parents seeking custody of their granddaughter, Amelia. They held him accountable for Isabella's fate and rejected handing her over. Lewis succeeded in taking Amelia only after police intervention. On May 28, he left his daughter in the care of his parents in the UK before heading back to Florida to keep chasing the insurance funds he believed were legally his. To investigators, Lewis's conduct seemed deeply troubling. They felt convinced of his involvement in Isabella's disappearance, yet hard proof remained elusive. The catamaran, the potential crime scene holding vital clues, had descended to significant depths, rendering recovery unfeasible. Searches of the shared residence and Lewis's mobile device produced key findings. While the couple's lack of contact over weeks and Lewis's occasional prolonged absences weren't conclusive on their own, items uncovered in the home sparked grave alarm. Hidden recording devices captured Isabella detailing repeated threats from her husband. Those tapes exposed how Lewis had frequently vowed to kill her. Isabella had even discussed these dangers with friends, expressing her wish to flee her harsh, abusive spouse. Still, she wanted to offer the relationship one last opportunity. Tragically, as events unfolded, she never escaped. The core of their disputes lay in Lewis's escalating debts, real estate loans, utility bills, credit card balances, all accumulating relentlessly. Lewis was essentially buried under financial strain with no clear path out. Rather than confronting the issues head-on, he persisted in catamaran sailing, stayed jobless, and even dipped into dwindling savings for pastimes like Thai boxing. Predictably, Isabella objected to this way of living. At the same time, Lewis pushed his wife to stop focusing on childcare and seek employment to contribute toward clearing his debts, freeing him for what he deemed higher priorities. During the probe into Lewis Bennett's monetary situation, officials uncovered international wire transfers amounting to roughly $160,000 between 2014 and 2016. It also emerged that the scarce, collectible silver coins discovered in Lewis's backpack held considerable value. Further inquiry showed these coins had been stolen in 2016. One of Lewis's contacts, a crew member aboard the vessel Kitty, had pilfered them during a shore stop and passed them to Lewis for fencing. This smuggling activity ultimately resulted in Lewis's imprisonment. A home search turned up remnants of the stolen coins alongside the incriminating tapes. For the smuggling offense, Lewis received a 7-month prison term. While incarcerated for that, he faced additional formal charges of involuntary manslaughter tied to his wife's disappearance. The investigation carefully reviewed every collected piece of evidence and determined that during their voyage, Isabella stumbled upon the rare collectible coins hidden among her husband's possessions, igniting a fierce confrontation. It stayed uncertain whether Isabella died aboard the vessel or perished by drowning in the ocean amid the heated and occasionally physical dispute. Lewis might have struck her fatally or cast her overboard without rendering aid, leaving her to drown as he observed from the craft. After the incident, Lewis appeared to grasp how his wife's demise could serve his monetary interests. By orchestrating the event to mimic a boating mishap, he aimed to collect insurance for both Isabella's death and the catamaran's loss, two swift occurrences. However, the prosecution rejected this theory as mere conjecture from the bereaved relatives. Lewis was never indicted for premeditated murder. Lacking sufficient proof, prosecutors extended a plea agreement. A guilty plea would limit his sentence to 8 years behind bars. Lewis took the deal. But if he were truly blameless, was accepting it wise when the primary concrete evidence amounted to a recording of him threatening his wife? Isabella's family felt deep frustration with the outcome. At the same time, they understood that without the plea, Lewis would likely serve just the smuggling time and regain freedom shortly. In November 2018, Lewis Bennett received an 8-year prison sentence. All insurance proceeds and Isabella's estate, which Lewis had pursued throughout the ordeal, went instead to their daughter, Amelia. The court further mandated that Lewis provide financial restitution to Amelia, recognizing the profound emotional damage she would endure growing up. If this story captured your interest, remember to like the video and subscribe to the Hidden Cases files. We share true crime narratives every single night. Until our next one, stay alert, stay aware.